Hey, what's going on, kayfabe multiverse? Today I have a very special video for you. Now, if you've been following this channel, you'll know that I've been posting a ton of Dead by Daylight content, and I have an upcoming 20-person Dead by Daylight Royal Rumble on this channel, so you're not going to want to miss that. Anyways, I thought we'd go for something a little bit different today, and I got a very special person on my channel. If you are a Dead by Daylight YouTuber, then you may or may not be familiar with the person who I have on board. His name is Das Food. Hi, Das Food.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm so sorry, viewers, but you're gonna have to deal with me for the upcoming video. I'll behave though, I promise.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, Das Food is a Dead by Daylight YouTuber. He has a Twitch stream, Das_food. He does lots of Dead by Daylight coverage, tier lists, like who would be a good Dead by Daylight, or excuse me, who would be a good Twitch streamer, things of that nature. Super cool, super wholesome.
It's really the questions nobody cares to ask. You know, those are my videos.
It's the tough questions, right? So
yeah, the tough questions are like, I feel like sometimes I put things out and people are just like, why does this video exist? But you know, if you get people asking questions, it's not a total waste of time, right?
Right. And today we're asking a very sublime question. We're asking which Dead by Daylight characters would be most successful in WWE. So we have several different categories here. We have Tribal Chief, basically a main eventer. We have upper mid card, lower mid card, jobber, and other. So let me explain what the other category is kind of. There are some characters in here that I don't think would fit neatly in as wrestlers, but maybe they're a good manager. Maybe they'd be a trainer in WWE. Maybe they'd be good in AEW. Other is for any and all other categories. So with that being said, let's get down to business.
Let's do it, yeah.
Let me bring up my notes here real fast. Make sure I can remember certain characters. Let's start with Dwight. Where do you think Dwight would go?
Dwight was one that the first vibe I got from Dwight, and I kind of wonder if you picked up on the same. I see him as Dead by Daylight's Daniel Bryan. This guy is the unlikely main eventer, so I put him straight in Tribal Chief.
I had like something very similar to that. So like originally I was going to consign like Dwight to jobber for the sheer fact that he's like he's nervous, he's reserved, he's introverted, he wears a fedora. When occasionally, yeah, when he typically WWE is typically trying to push larger than life personalities, but Dwight seems like he's more of like a Reddit moderator, if you know what I mean. And for that reason, I wasn't going to put him as a main eventer. I was going to put him as a jobber. But then I had second thoughts, and I was thinking something more along your lines. You see, Dwight, he's like malleable enough in his skills to fulfill multiple roles. You see, we've got Mechanic Dwight, we've got Pizza Boy Dwight, we've got the Dwelf. In model form, Dwight is all things to all people. So here's what I was thinking. Think about Kane, for example. One of the reasons Kane was so exemplary in WWE was the fact that he could adapt his character to take on various tones. For instance, we've had like Monster Kane, we've had Corporate Kane, we've had Yes Movement Kane, we've had all these different types of Kane. And so I think what keeps Dwight afloat here is the fact that there's a broad range of roles he can play. You can pretty much plug him in wherever you need a body. And like you said, I can see Dwight in that sort of Daniel Bryan role. So
and you know, if you look at his lore, the whole thing with Dwight is that he was a pushover in his entire life. And then once he goes to the realm of the fog of the entity and all that, he takes on this leader role that nobody would have ever believed him capable of. So to me, that's kind of, you know, I think of Daniel Bryan, who like his whole career, it's like, oh, that's not a world champion in WWE. Like that's a good indie guy. But then he makes it to the big leagues and, you know, he just kicks it into that next gear. I see that for Dwight, personally.
He's almost like the Undertaker, like a silent locker room leader kind of guy.
I love the thought of Dwight running Wrestler's Court.
Yeah, I can see him as like, I don't know. Would you see him as a judge, or would you see him as like a bailiff with like, I can see him like wearing his like nerd shorts.
What's the name of the person who like just types down what everybody's saying? Because to me, that's Dwight in a courtroom
Was
setting.
it a typographer or?
Yeah, something like that. I should know, but it's been a long day.
Right, right. So we'll put him as tribal chief.
Let's go.
All right, next person we have is, let's start with Meg. What are your thoughts on Meg?
Meg was one of the harder ones for me to place, largely because she's got a really ravenous fan base, and I'm kind of terrified of upsetting them to any meaningful degree. But, her whole thing is that she's just like this freak athlete, right? Like, that's her entire lore, is that, oh yeah, Meg, super athlete. So I just see her as like a really great worker. I see her as a tremendously good worker, but not a main eventer. So I put her in the upper mid card.
Okay, so here are my thoughts. So Meg has like you're getting at. She has all of the athletic tools that are necessary to be a main eventer in WWE. She's like an extremely athletic track star. She's highly competitive. She reminds me of Bianca Belair, to be honest.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, because Bianca Belair also did track, right? So, but there are like two things holding Meg back. First, like, I don't think Meg personally is all there in the looks department. She has
Well, not everyone can be Bianca. Okay, Bianca's a beautiful, beautiful woman, but Meg, she's trying her best. Okay, damn it, she's trying her best.
She's not doing her best with like, she has like a perpetual resting Festus face. Like, do you remember Festus?
Oh, I do. Biscuits and gravy. Yeah. Oh no.
I think that's sufficient to keep her out of the main event, but she is good enough that I can see her as someone who works with the main event guy to put them over ultimately. So it's kind of like Cesaro.
Make them look good.
Right. And also, I can also see her in a Dolph Ziggler type role where she's a sort of gatekeeper. If you can't have a good match with Dolph Ziggler, you can't have a good match with anyone. In the same way, if you can't have a good match with Meg, then you can't have a good match with anyone. So I'm putting her upper mid card as well. Yeah. Claudette, my favorite character. What are your thoughts on her?
Oh, really? So I think my issue with trying to place Claudette is it's this kind of it's keeping my eye on the prize, right? Because I really like Claudette, the character, and I have been playing a lot of Claudette recently. And my issue is that, we're not ranking, do you like this character? We're ranking, would they make a good WWE superstar? And in the case of Claudette, I just have this issue that she is so mousy, so introverted. I don't see her going out and just tearing the house down, personally. What I see from Claudette is somebody who, I'm trying to think who I could really liken her to here. She may be somebody maybe like Ricochet, who's got a lot of talent, but who just doesn't really translate in this realm of over-the-top personalities. So, yeah, I put her in lower mid-card.
So, again, I don't want to offend Claudette players. I have 4,000 hours in Dead by Daylight, and it's mostly as a Claudette main. I know that I can pull off some like dodges and some immersion that I cannot do with any other character in the game except Claudette. I love her that much. If it were up to me and I were just going by my own personal preference, I'd put her in the main event and I'd make her Brock Lesnar. She would take every single person to like Urban Evasion City. But alas, this is not so. We're going by how we think she would do in WWE. And like you said, I don't think she has anything going for her. She's not particularly athletic. She's a botanist. She's not bad looking. She's not bad looking, but she's not the prettiest either. She doesn't have anything that could strike me as like a marketable catchphrase or anything like that. Like, what's Claudette gonna say?
You just hit at it. It's Self-Care City.
Self-care.
Yeah, that's a catchphrase.
Self-Care City, or it's time to blend. Like,
yeah,
what is this?
It's blending time.
It's blending time.
Yeah.
I mean, what's her finisher gonna be? She gonna teabag?
No,
Uh,
she's gonna do like the like the mist in the eyes finisher because she's a botanist, so she's gonna have all kinds of plants. She's just gonna take on like a poison ivy role.
that she's gonna do like the Great Muda or Tajiri
Mm-hmm.
Mist. Oh, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Um, I see her as either a jobber or lower mid card. I can settle for either.
Give her
Um,
lower mid card. She deserves that much.
yeah, I'll give her lower mid card. Next we have Jake Park, Senor Park. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, Jake. I mean, oh my gosh. Okay, so Jake, I look at him and I'm like, maybe he's a great worker, and maybe the kid can cut a promo, but I don't care. I find Jake so boring compared to most of the other survivors, and the sad part is he's not even boring enough that I want to see him get tossed around by like Claudette Lesnar. So I put him in lower mid card and just moved on because I don't
Mm.
have strong feelings about Jake. I just not one way or the other. I don't feel anything. He is, he's not to me. He's almost like he's not Eddie Guerrero. He's like Chavo Guerrero. It's like how do you feel about Chavo? It's like he's a wrestler.
Yeah, it's like what's Chavo Guerrero got going for him except he's related to Eddie.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
except that he has the last name Guerrero.
yeah, exactly. So,
Oh, also a banger of an entrance theme. I'll give him that.
yeah, the Ooh
Chavo,
Chavo.
Chavo,
Yeah.
yeah, that was great.
So I placed him in lower mid card as well, Jake. So I thought the fact that he's a survivalist and he's able to endure hostile environments suggests that he'd specialize in like extreme rules matches or death match style wrestling, where you can use like the environment to your advantage. The problem is that WWE, depending on what side of the bed they wake on, can consider that type of wrestling to be lowbrow, quote unquote. At least if you're not already a top guy. So I suspect
Hmm.
that we'd see Jake's full range of we wouldn't see Jake's full range of skills on display. And since his selling point is being nerfed as a result, he'd get consigned to mid card hell automatically. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like he runs the risk of the same type of tragedy where WWE they chose Dean Ambrose when they could have had Mox, and it's like it's not a 1-to-1. You gotta go with the side that lets him shine a little more, and I don't think he would do that there.
Exactly. And not only that, I also put down that we've had survivalist gimmicks before in WWE. Sarah Logan, and
Hmm.
they just made her into a comedy act. I can see him doing like Jake doing an unfunny like Akira Tozawa type of thing where it's like get off my television. So
Yeah, poor Akira Tozawa too. What a talented act that they just did nothing with.
yeah, I liked him when he first debuted, but yeah, he's got to go in the lower mid card. Nia, thoughts on her?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's got a lot of thoughts on Nia, right? Nia's long since been ever since Nia became like kind of the poster child for like toxic behavior. You know, Nia has been somebody that and Nia's been somebody that I really, really think everybody feels pretty strongly about. And she was one that I really struggled between main eventer and upper mid card. And ultimately, it was kind of a tough one. I ultimately went with upper mid card, but you could convince me like on the right day to put her in the main event. But I think she's the type. Certainly, she would be a champion numerous times throughout her career. I just don't think she would be cream of the crop, so to speak. I think she'd be really, really good, but maybe never great.
Hmm.
I think she'd be a great anti-hero type, and if that was the direction they took, I could easily see her being a fan favorite. But if not, I think she's a heel through and through.
I came to a drastically different conclusion.
Oh
So
no.
when I was thinking about Nia, one of the things that came to mind is like who else in WWE has had like a similar gimmick? And I was thinking like she reminds me of like Ruby Riot and
Oh
or Ruby
no.
Soho and like Liv Morgan in the Riot Squad, and that was a lower mid card act. And for that reason, I was just thinking they have similar gimmicks, so she's probably lower mid card. But upper mid card, lower mid card, I'll settle for either. You do make a good point about that, the toxic behavior being a thing, and I can see that being something that's like gets ratings, gets people talking. Her toxic behavior, maybe backstage. So yeah, I'll give her upper mid card.
Yeah, and I don't want to close out every entry with like, hey, what about this wrestler that was like completely wasted? But wow,
Right.
Ruby was so talented, and I always thought that she would overcome the bad booking, but I guess not. I guess that wasn't on the table.
Unfortunate.
But she's great.
Let's do Laurie Strode. Where does Miss Laurie go?
Oh, straight to the main event. This is not a final girl. This is the final girl in horror. This is the final girl that inspired all other final girls. To me, Laurie is, in a profoundly wholesome way, the Hulk Hogan of final girls. She is this prototype around which an entire character type was built. Built. That's proper English. To me, Laurie is. I just think she feels to me almost like one of those golden age type wrestlers that you look back on, and I see no reason that she couldn't be the John Cena of her generation. I think Laurie is an absolute main eventer.
Really? So I was thinking that she would be too wholesome to a fault.
Like John Cena.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could see. I mean, but Cena, he's got like his backstage stories. You know, Freddie Prinze Jr. and Tyler Rex. John Cena, I have these stories, right? And I'm not sure if I can see like Laurie, cardigan wearing Laurie, being like pushed. Are we doing 1970s Laurie, or are we doing like modern?
We're doing DBD Laurie, so not modern day Jamie Lee Curtis, but like. Yeah, DBD Laurie.
If we do DBD Laurie, then you're right. She's a clear main eventer.
Yeah, and look, those cardigans are gonna fly off the shelves. That's gonna be hot merch.
Hot merch. I almost saw her when I was thinking about her being wholesome. I was almost thinking about Molly Holly.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, so like Molly Holly, she's very meek. One of the few people that hasn't been quote unquote corrupted by the business. Someone who I'd like to meet in real life. Like, no one has anything negative to say about Molly Holly, right?
Every single account of she is an absolute sweetheart.
Right. Next we have Ace. I have lots of things to say about Ace. What are your thoughts?
Ace, to me, you put him anywhere and I'm cool with it, but to me, this is a guy that I don't want in the ring. This is a guy I want being the charismatic manager, so I put him in other. I want him to be standing, but I want him to be like a bedazzled Paul Heyman. I want him to be standing beside some big monster and hyping up a giant who maybe can't speak so well. Because I see Ace as somebody who could really do that well. Not that I couldn't see him being an engaging performer on his own, but I think his ideal potential is met when he is paired up with somebody who maybe can go further in the ring while he goes further on the mic. What about you?
I see you too are a man of good taste, so I'll just get straight to the point and put him in other because I came to the same conclusion. So initially, I wanted to put Ace as like an upper mid card Miz type of character with a talk show. Maybe you could call it the Visconti voice or something like that, right? So like according to his lore, at least, Ace has charisma. He's good looking. Meaning he has all of the necessary tools for being successful in WWE. But here's the problem. Ace is not a spring chicken. He's in his 50s, and WWE likes to push the young talent like Austin Theory, for example. So I put...
just Theory. They shaved off his first name because...
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we can't have anything in WWE these days. It's, you can't... You got to just be, you just got to be Rusev. You just got to be Cesaro. You just got to be Theory. First names are just persona non grata right now, but continue.
Right. Man, you're going to get me going on a rant about like Max Dupree, right? That guy. So you might remember that Ace in his lore has like this, he has this habit of dodging people who he owes debts to. And who does that sound like? It sounds like Paul Heyman during the days of ECW where he was not paying his talent. So I'm glad that you drew the comparison with Paul Heyman because I saw the exact same thing. I can see Ace Visconti in the role of being an advocate for maybe someone like David King, being like, my client, David King, conquered Otsdarva's streak, or something like that, while David, while David like bounces around the ring like Brock Lesnar. And I also have this like sneaking suspicion, like maybe you have it too, that I think Ace would be like a great shoot interview.
I think he's the type of guy who I would love to see the interviews, where they ask people essentially like, is this wrestler a jerk or not?
Right.
And they just shoot and they just go off. Yeah, I'd love to hear what Ace says about like everybody else in the game.
I would love to hear him bury people. Uh, let's get to Bill. Bill, what are we gonna do with him?
You already mentioned something that kind of factored into my Bill ranking, in that WWE is not really going to push a guy who is kind of up there uh, in age. However, the difference between Bill and Ace to me is I think there's something endearing about Bill being kind of a bit of a silver fox in his own way, and I think he's the type of guy who you never once dream of him becoming WWE champion, but I think at some point in his career he gets a United States title win and the crowd goes wild for it. So I put him at the lower mid card. I think that he's largely an enhancement talent, but not quite a jobber. Not the disrespect to being a jobber. A fan favorite who probably moves some merch, but a guy who, when we talk about the title scene, we're never talking about him.
I actually put him as a main eventer.
Wow, let's hear about it. Let me sit back. Let me know what's Bill bringing to the table.
So ordinarily, I would say, yeah, Bill is he's too old to be in the main event scene, right? And that automatically counts against him. But he's kicked way too much butt in his lifetime not to be a main eventer. Being in the left, being going through the Left 4 Dead series, surviving the zombie apocalypse, the sort of feats that he's done. I think if he can hold his own in a zombie apocalypse, there is no reason he can't hold his own in a wrestling ring. I can see Bill easily in a Sting or Goldberg type of role. He's like on a short-term contract, working with good talent that's good enough to hide his weaknesses that come with his age. Think about it this way. You saw Kevin Owens versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania, right?
Oh yeah, it was great. Loved it.
And Kevin Owens pretty much sold his butt off to make Austin look great. And Austin, quite frankly, didn't do that much in the ring. I can see other talent doing that for Bill, where he's this sort of old school vet who can still kick butt, trying to sort of redeem the glory days that WWE ends up pushing ultimately part-time, but maybe he gets a WWE championship at one point. Did you agree with that, or do you think he's a lower mid card still?
I mean, as soon as you said Stone Cold, something clicked for me that really hadn't to that point, and I actually think that's a very apt comparison, just in the sense of I could absolutely see Bill, smashing beers together, stomping mud holes and walking them dry. There is something there. There's something about this kind of gruff old timer. I still don't know that I put him in like main eventer, just from the standpoint of he's. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like, is current Goldberg? Do you consider him a main eventer right now?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna book him in the last match, right? Or somewhere
Well, see, I think of him as like a special attraction right
special
now.
huh. So maybe
Yeah,
he's
so I don't know.
so maybe Bill's more of an other. But like you were talking about the beer cans and stuff. I could see like Bill like putting out a cigarette on his opponent's back or something.
He's stone cold, but instead of drinking, he just smokes all the time. It's
Right.
terrible for his in-ring cardio, but it's great for character work.
Right. I'll leave him at lower mid card. All right. Let's do Feng Min and why is she a main eventer?
Yeah, I was gonna say, come on now. Let's, I like that you got right to the point there because, yeah, Feng Man, come on. Firstly, she brings something that WWE for decades now has proven to love, and that's a built-in fan base. She comes in with viewers because she was a professional esports athlete. On top of that, I mean, look, she's she's good looking, she's popular. Uh, Also, her lore, she's super competitive, so I have no doubt that she'd be in the best shape of her life. Yeah, she's a main eventer. This is somebody who you just let Feng Min work. She strikes me as somebody who could just. I actually don't think it's as much the character work as the in-ring work, but yeah, I think she locks in, and it's kind of funny. So when I think of like people who don't need to rely on talking too much, obviously one person who comes to mind is like, nobody ever asked Asuka to cut a promo because obviously Asuka, her English has never been that good, but
Right.
especially in her NXT days, it didn't matter. Asuka in NXT is one of my most fondly remembered runs of any champion ever, and I've been watching wrestling my whole life. Uh, and I think Feng Min could be something similar, where she's just this dominator. She just comes in, she demolishes whoever. Not demolishes as in 5 second match, but demolishes as in she gets the win no matter what. Yeah, I think she's a main eventer. And it sounds like you agree. It sounds like you're seeing it kind of similar.
I see it. I completely agree with that. Plus, she's marketable. Who's not
Oh
gonna
yeah.
buy the bunny hoods? Like who?
Those in the cardigans, right?
Right. She can do like the PR. I can see her like on Xavier Woods' Up Up Down Down gaming channel since she's a pro gamer. I can see her making special appearances on Attack of the Show. I can see her making
Oh
special
yeah.
appearances on E3, for example. Uh like she has all the tools. There's no reason she's not like the main
Well,
tribal
and
chief here.
and you talk about like marketability. Uh, I remember the time WWE, they pushed Jinder Mahal to the top because they wanted to crack into the India market a little further because they're very big on markets. They want to identify, it's why they always want somebody that's going to move tickets in Latin America. They want somebody who's going to move tickets in like the UK. They're very big on markets, and I want to say lore wise, I think Feng Min is Chinese, I believe, which in terms of markets, there's not really a bigger one to try to crack into. Uh, she's a runaway, like slam dunk.
Yeah, Feng Min, my tribal chief. Um let's do Wreck-It Ralph. I'm sorry. I mean David King.
Oh, did them dirty. Yeah, I'm giving these things out like candy at this point, but he's a main eventer too. It's funny you've already kind of likened it there, and yeah, he to me he's the Brock Lesnar of this group. He's the genetic freak that you know uh, takes Suplex City, has probably Ace Visconti in his corner. I actually have a different character that I've picked out that I think would be a good manager for him, but
Okay.
Ace would obviously be hilarious in his corner. Yeah, I think he's a main eventer. What about you?
So initially, I was going to put him as a main eventer, given the fact that he's a bigger guy, he's a tough guy, and we all know Vince McMahon loves the big guys, right? But
He
then,
loves big boys. Yeah.
but then we've got a couple of exceptions like Karrion Cross and Braun Strowman, for example. I think what needs to be appreciated here is that David is prone to his vice of being a hothead. And as such, I can see him being stiff with various people in the ring that he doesn't like, thereby causing a lot of backstage drama. I can see him going on Twitter tirades. You've seen some of these wrestlers that have zero Twitter game.
You just called this man Ryback. You just called this man Ryback.
I was not going to say Ryback, but that is exactly who I had in mind. Um,
Absolutely Ryback, though.
I can see him going like not being able to take Twitter opinions. I I can see him as someone who's such a hothead that therefore the company cannot trust him to carry their brand on his shoulders. So I see David actually in a lower mid card. He'd be the Ridge Holland to he'd be pretty much like Ridge Holland to someone else's Sheamus. Holland is a big guy, but he's a background character, and I think David's a background character as a result. So
Oh, see, I think he's a Sheamus if I've ever seen one. This guy's a fella, let me tell you.
yeah, and Sheamus is upper mid card. We're lacking some in the upper mid card, so I'll put.
Yeah, it's fair. We got to fill it out. I will say, uh, basically from day one, I've been like a huge mark for Sheamus, and I know that's not a popular take with like the internet wrestling community, but I think Sheamus his very stiff style of working is so fun to watch.
I think you mean sports entertainment community.
Oh, oh no.
Right.
Oh no, I'm in trouble.
Okay, so David goes upper mid card.
Yeah.
Let's do Tapp. I'm not sure what to say about him, but I will say I was thoroughly bemused when you said that he'd be the type of guy that would track somebody down to confront them in a Walmart.
Oh, Tapp. I
Yeah.
mean, if we're going off movie Tapp, he is unhinged. And if we're going off, they made two Saw video games, and in those, he was hardly even Tapp anymore. He was completely unrecognizable from the movies. So then you got to go off of his DBD persona, which is you never see him because nobody plays him. So come on, man. Somebody had to be like our first jobber here, and I don't see Tapp. I don't see star power in Tapp. I don't know. I look at Tapp and I just see another guy. Just I don't know. Tapp doesn't really. Also, again, as of Saw 1, Tapp was like what, late 40s, early 50s.
Right.
So I'm not saying we've never seen it. Obviously, guys have gone into their 50s and still been main eventers. It can happen, but you got to have something. And in the case of Tapp, he's definitely unhinged. But I think more than anything, he brings his tenacity and he makes somebody else look really good. Personally,
I agree. I'm sorry, you're going to be our first jobber, Tapp. Next we have Kate. Thoughts on Kate?
Yeah, Kate. I mean, Kate's a main eventer, right? I mean, this is again one thing I tried to factor in is she's a famous country singer as of her lore, so just her stepping into the ring is a huge thing. But if we're assuming that she's actually trying to make a go of it, she has the pre-established fame. She has the marketability. Now, look, I'll go in and say, could she be, kind of a Lana? Could she be an Eva Marie? We see these. We see these people who get hired for being extremely good-looking people, but then they just don't take to wrestling. Yeah, it could happen, but I don't know. I just kind of... You could sell me on her being an upper mid-carder, maybe. Maybe there are limitations there, but I don't know. I think Kate, she definitely has the fame and the look. I don't know what she would bring ring-wise, and I don't know. I guess the fact that she comes with Boil Over would suggest that she has quite a deal of strength, actually. So
she's feisty. Yeah. She's feisty. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of feisty. Windows of opportunity. Maybe that suggests some adaptability, which would that'd definitely be very helpful in the ring. So yeah, I go with main eventer there.
I was thinking when she has like her whole country thing going on, that's like very similar to Mickie James, because Mickie James has a very country career, and Mickie James has a very respectable Hall of Fame worthy career. So yeah, I see Kate.
Oh, she's one of the greatest. Mickie James is a person who's treated everybody right. She's dealt with the hand she's been given. And thankfully, she's finally, it seems like the last few years, she's getting the respect she deserves for being one of the greatest to ever do it in the women's division.
Right. So, Kate, you are my tribal chief.
Hey, let's go.
But is Adam Francis your tribal chief?
I don't want to be mean to Adam. I love Adam.
I'll be mean. I hate Adam players.
I love Adam. I think Adam's great. I think Adam, first off, some of his cosmetic options, the dude is just so dripped out. I love it.
Yeah,
and I love all the ones. He's got the teacher sweater, and he's got the new book shirt. Clearly very intelligent. I think he's likable. However, all of that to say, he's so boring. It's just so boring. Like,
yeah.
I just can't really. What can I say about Adam? He's smart and he's Jamaican. That's about, even after reading his lore, that's about all I walked away with. Like, he seems like a good dude. Like, if we're ranking them based off of, would you go have a beer with this guy? Like, yeah, sure, put him in main eventer. But for wrestling, this land of the charismatic giants, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really seeing Adam up there. I see him in lower mid card.
Do you remember Abraham Washington?
Abraham
from
Washington.
ECW. He was like an announcer in ECW for a while. Top. He got fired because he made a joke about Kobe Bryant, but he was the manager of the Primetime Players for a very short time.
Okay. Yes, yes. Yeah.
I can see like Adam Francis doing a talk show. So he did this talk show on the revived ECW, and it got the Conway pop. Like no one reacted to the show. I thought it was hilarious personally, but no one in the audience got it, and it wasn't vibing with anyone. I
Oh.
see Adam Francis doing the same thing.
So he has you see him as having material that's almost too smart for its own good, the material. Like it just doesn't fit with the audience almost.
Yeah, I mean, he has the appeal with the Jamaican accent, but I don't see him capitalizing off of it.
Yeah, he's no Kofi.
You know what? I think if you're okay with this, I want to put him as a jobber.
You can put him wherever you want, but just know I'll cry about it because I love Adam.
I'm sorry,
I
Adam.
think,
I'm putting you as a
uh,
jobber.
tears.
I Goblin.
Yeah, I was so close to putting him in jobber, but I couldn't do it. I could not put him in. Couldn't put him there. We're talking about Quentin, right?
Right.
Yeah. He strikes me as the type of guy that would. I can't help but look at him and think dedicated fan base that's very small but very dedicated, very very passionate. He was definitely the best part of the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street, which is I don't know. I mean, that's not exactly an accomplishment, but congrats on that. And then I look at him and I can't help but wonder if maybe there's some Brian Pillman in there. If maybe
Hmm.
he could turn it up and kind of bring a little bit of that chaos that people just love to see. So I can't put him in jobber. I think his ceiling is very high, but I think it's more likely that he stays closer to his floor.
Right. I think I want to agree with you. I think I was prepared to put him in jobber, but I think that point about Brian Pillman kind of swayed me.
He's
Um,
got he's got Pillman energy about him. Like I can't really place it, but like if they could get a cosmetic where he had Pillman's like iconic haircut, I think that'd be the coolest thing on earth.
right. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Um, let's do Jeff. I have some things to say about Jeff.
Well, okay, the full disclosure, I am a Jeff main, so
Okay.
whatever comes out of my mouth next is super biased.
Okay. Feel free to be
No,
biased as you want.
no. So actually, joking aside, I actually don't put him in main event. I think Jeff, and we have to keep in mind, for the sake of DBD, they're all relatively the same size as one another. The survivors are. So I think maybe realistically we see a little more diversity in height and all that in a real world scenario. And to me, I feel I always like these wrestling comparisons because I think it can kind of explain what more abstract words can't. And with Jeff, I get Big Show vibes. I get kind of this now I don't mean that he's gonna flip his allegiance like every other show.
Yeah.
I don't mean that it's heel face, heel face, heel face.
Right.
I just mean kind of that I don't know. Big Show Big Show always had the vibe of me to a guy that got respect, but maybe not enough respect. Uh, and
Yeah.
I think that Jeff's an upper mid carder. I think he's a guy who would have a very long, very nice career. But I don't know. Then again, the beard and the scar scream Mick Foley to me. So who knows?
Right. Yeah, I feel like, Randy Orton had his sort of match with Mick Foley where he was on the tax, and that sort of solidified Randy as a top guy. And I can sort of see Jeff doing something similar. But you compared Jeff to Big Show. I wanted to compare Jeff, like in terms of his look and the vibe he gives off, to like Brody Lee
Mm,
and Eric Rowan. I mean, Eric Rowan, he's got like he always would come to the ring like rocking like the Amon Amarth shirts, right? The metal shirts.
yeah.
I can see Jeff doing something similar. Jeff's a big burly guy. I can see him like being treated almost like he doesn't have like the best physique in the world, let's be honest. I can see him like as a almost like a Killian Dane or Viking Raiders type of guy. And when I look
Yeah,
at
yeah. Oh
I,
yeah, go on. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
you're
Yeah.
good. I'd put him anywhere between lower and upper mid card.
Mm.
So
I think he would be a guy who comes out, he throws the opponent around some, and then he probably ends up losing the match. I think that's probably his. He's not a jobber, but I do think he's enhancement in his own way.
He loses to the most powerful maneuver in the wrestling business, the roll-up.
The roll-up. I mean, that or the finger poke of doom. That thing was just gnarly.
Exactly. So we want to settle on upper or lower mid-card?
Let's give him upper because I'm biased and I love him.
We'll be upper. We'll be nice. Okay, Jane. Let's talk
Jane.
about her. I do have quite an interesting story about Jane, but let's hear what you got to say.
Okay, so I feel like Jane, it's no secret that larger competitors have an advantage in WWE. And in the case of Jane, what she brings to the table that maybe some other larger competitors haven't is the talk show experience that leaves no doubt in my mind she would be an excellent promo. You could give her a microphone and she could sell a program with another performer. And because of that, I think Jane is upper mid-card to main eventer, but I was feeling generous and I went ahead and put her main eventer because apparently I think every other person can be in the main event. I'm like the people online who like to fantasy book things and somehow everybody's favorite is in the main event. That's kind of what I'm realizing as I see how many I put in there. But I think Jane, she's got the look and she'd be great on the microphone. So unless she was just extremely detrimental in the ring, like another larger female superstar we've seen in the last few years,
Yep.
I don't see a scenario where she fails.
I am so sorry.
No.
I put like a very special category for her. I put jobbed out and fired.
Oh no, Jane. Not Jane.
So when you said that she had something going for her, and you said, well, she has the news or the experience of talking on the mic, I thought you were gonna say she has the oatmeal, because of the thickness. So when I was first considering Jane Romero, I immediately started making comparisons to Nikita Lyons in NXT. Are you familiar with Nikita?
Yes, I'm in love.
Okay, so she has the exact. so basically, you can tell that both she and Jane are the daughters of the Quaker Oats oatmeal guy. Given their thickness.
I'm that's my wife you're talking about. Yeah,
exactly. So,
she doesn't know it yet.
She's my wife, but she doesn't know it.
Yeah, it's not creepy. It's endearing. As long as you're the main character.
Right. Don't ask for permission. Ask for forgiveness.
We are not lawyers, by the way.
Yeah. Now I can see like Jane, like I can already see her making her entrance. I can see her doing the little Sasha Banks dance on stage and then doing like the hip swing at the end, right?
And then the Melina splits, right?
Right. And then all of the fans would do that. That Vince McMahon meme where he's just falling over his chair?
Yeah.
I can completely see that. And I was going to originally put Jane as like an upper mid card to a main eventer for that reason. But then you got to take into account Jane's lore. Her attitude gets in the way. You see, I read her lore. I did my research.
I did too. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And she's been fired pretty swiftly for the fact that the executive she's worked for in the past didn't appreciate how candid she was being or her ad-libs. For that reason, I can see Jane as someone who self-sabotages her own career in WWE.
She drops the pipe bomb. No.
You already know where I'm going with this. She's going to go off script, making a ruckus backstage because she doesn't like these promos she's been given. And as a result, I see her as somebody who's initially pushed as an upper mid-card act, but because of all of her backstage politics, she's jobbed out, because that's what WWE does when you don't do things their way, and then released by WWE. But
you're right.
I then see her as going to AEW, where they're not a publicly traded company that's overly concerned with pleasing their advertisers, right? So you've mentioned a pipe bomb. I can see her going to AEW and cutting like a pipe bomb. Maybe she like cuts a pipe bomb on Matthew Cote, calling him a mark for going for all of these licensed characters, exactly MJF style, looking straight at the microphone, calling people marks. So I'm fine with upper mid card if it's AEW, but if it's WWE, I'm putting her as jobber.
That's actually really well reasoned, and it really made me reconsider mine because everything I said holds true, but you're right that she has proven to be very difficult to work with in her lore. Uh, so yeah, I think you're right. I think she would either be the type that ends up running the locker room click style, or she's fired. There's really no in between.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you're right. I'm cool with that ranking.
I'm sorry, the audience, but that's our reasoning. Let's do Ash.
Look, if somebody bottled up charisma and sold it, and you drink like 3 times the recommended serving, you would end up with Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell can take the schlockiest B material and make it so fun. To me, he's one of those guys that I never get tired of seeing, no matter what role he's in. And I've got to admit, so sometimes a certain comedian or I don't know, like they have a direct line to your funny bone. In that same way, there's just this direct line for Bruce Campbell. Everything he does is golden in my eyes. So obviously, when it comes to Ash, I see a lot of. This is a guy that, first off, look, he beat evil. He fought evil and won. Like that's like beating up the sun. Like this guy, he's a main eventer to me. I love Ash.
I put in another interesting category that's just, I put he's fired day one. And here's my notes. On my notes, I put in quotation marks, he's not some Mexican, he's Pablo the Mexican.
Oh, that was, yeah. Hey, wait a minute. He was speaking in defense of Pablo.
Right. I put he'd be a main eventer, but he's too stupid that he would get WWE a lot of negative press. I see him saying something extremely stupid on Twitter day one and immediately get fired. He would definitely be a main eventer 40 years ago, but not in today's climate. So I put job or not even hired. He's just fired before he even makes his appearance.
He's what was it? Was it Jessica Havoc that happened to? Do you remember where she's with Impact now, but during her tryout for WWE, some old tweets came out, and they just told her to stop the tryout. Like, pretty brutal, but
I vaguely remember her in Impact Wrestling for a while, and she had like a dubstep kind of thing. But I think I might remember that. And then I think Lars Sullivan, he was on the TV for a few weeks though.
Oh yeah, Lars just could not stop getting in trouble.
I'll put Ash. I'll humor you. I'll put Ash as tribal chief.
Let's go. I want to be part of that bloodline so badly.
So where do we put Miss Wheeler? Not Serenity Wheeler. Nancy Wheeler.
Yeah, no, we're talking about the Nancy. To me, she is an other for sure. This is not a person I could ever see stepping into a wrestling ring. And it's not because she's not tough. Yeah, I mean, her whole thing in Stranger Things, having watched the entirety of the show, to this point, at least, I know there's more yet to come, but she's very tough. She is very, very tough, and she fights for what she wants and all of that. And to me, I see her as a fantastic general manager, like an on-screen general manager.
Huh.
I think she would be one of those that, not every general manager has to be a heel, which apparently WWE doesn't remember. She could come out and say it's a tag team match playa every single time. Right. I love Teddy Long. I love him so much. I think she would be a fantastic manager, but especially she'd be an even better general manager.
I did not consider her as a general manager, but I can kind of see her like in the AJ Lee suit. Remember when AJ was the general manager? I can see her doing that on stage. I'm putting her in other.
Go, that's good. Yeah, I can kind of see that.
In my opinion, like the most toxic male in the entire DBD game. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I want to compliment your accent. When you say handsome, it almost sounds like a compliment. I mean, almost like an insult. It almost sounds like you're saying toxic.
Right.
But he's the most handsome. I mean, well, look at this guy. What a stud. What a guy. He to me personally, I was so tempted to put Steve in the main eventer status because it scoops Steve. But I actually think he's the Dolph Ziggler of this list. I think he's the guy who can work his tail off, who can have quality matches. And I think he will occasionally reach that mountaintop. But I don't think he lives there. I don't think he sets up a house at the mountaintop. I think he's the guy who fans want to see get his due, and the company's just always afraid of pulling the trigger with him. So I think he's an upper mid carder.
Is Dolph Ziggler an upper mid carder though? Like,
I think at times he has been. Maybe you could say lower mid card. But I think there have been times where it'd be very fair to call him an upper mid carder.
That's true. He can't shake the Dolph Ziggler stigma now.
Exactly.
Now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, this is a poor Ziggler. Every time you talk about a guy who like has a lot of talent but will never make it, everybody's like, "Oh, he's just like Dolph Ziggler," which is like, that's got to be crushing. That's
Right.
gotta be crushing.
I mean,
sorry, Nick.
You're getting a good paycheck though, so yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, Ziggler's got his priorities straight. Everybody else is like, "Oh, don't you want to leave?" He's like, "No, I'm getting paid way too much to be here."
Yui Kimura, and why is her finisher the Kimura lock?
I mean, I was gonna say, first off, fantastic point. I'm really glad I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, you're spot on. If that's not her finisher, what are we even doing here? What's the point of even why even put them in this hypothetical situation if we can't even like? That's such a layup, and I didn't even think of it. So congrats on that. That's fantastic.
I'm totally gonna make her in WWE 2K22 and give her the Kimura lock. Now that I said that.
Yeah, and you already have like the little Becky Lynch goggles that she wears,
right?
So like, yeah, it's just perfect. It's there. Ironically, give her the Seth Rollins haircut. Yeah, it's the whole thing. In the case of Yui, to me, she is. Gosh, I'm so biased again because I think Yui is debatably best girl, and to me, she's a main eventer. Now, it's also worth noting that for me, I love strong style.
Right.
I think that strong style is irresistible. I love watching it. I never get tired of it. I understand she wouldn't be able to work genuine strong style in WWE. However, we've seen pretty good success for strong style wrestlers in more recent years. And, I think she... Main eventer may be too generous. Maybe I'm actually going to change my ranking. I'm going to put her in upper mid card. I think she's an upper mid carder and a good one at that.
I'm going to agree with that. So, once I considered Yui, I was just thinking, well, we've had Chuck Palumbo as a motorcycle gimmick. We've had The Undertaker having a motorcycle gimmick. We've never had a female do a motorcycle gimmick, and I can see Yui, given her like background. Working with mechanical things, coming out on motorcycles, doing the whole WrestleMania entrance type of thing. I can easily see her, like, just based on the aesthetic alone, as an upper mid carder.
Yeah, so long as she never comes out with Triple H's WrestleMania tricycle.
Right.
That thing was a travesty. And, like, I love trips. I really do. I appreciate them. But that was not it.
That ain't it, Chief.
That ain't it, Chief.
Zarina Kassir.
Oh, okay. So I like Zarina a lot more than a lot of people do. I don't think she gets nearly enough credit for how cool she is. And that's why I gave her upper mid card. Zarina is one of those people that I don't think she catches your attention quite enough to be a main eventer. But I do think she would carve out a successful career for herself. I think she's one of those, not in terms of personality before I say this, but one of those kind of like Miz who, like, when you talk about who he is and where he's been, it's easy to be like, oh, well, it's not that impressive. And then you look back at all the accomplishments and you're like, okay, wow, that's actually a pretty good career. And I think that would be Zarina. I think Zarina would be one of those who is constantly out there kind of overperforming and exceeding expectations, but never really getting talked about as like this could be the face of the division or of the company. I think that Zarina, obviously we know that she's a very determined person, so I don't think she's the type to quit. I think Zarina would be kind of the sleeper pick here. I think maybe out of all of them so far, I think she's maybe the one with the most potential who maybe people wouldn't realize.
I'm going to be bold here, and I'm going to put her as a tribal chief.
Let's go. Let's go.
So here's my thought. One of her defining characteristics is that she's street smart. So according to her lore, which I read, what she ended up doing as a kid is she observed what the popular kids liked and learned to project the image that they preferred. And as such, I see her as someone who constantly has her finger on the pulse of what the audience wants, such that she can easily win it over. I'll give you an example of somebody who can do this. Chris Jericho. He knows the audience so well that he can get the word "it" over. You just made the list. That gets over. I'm a wizard. He gets it over. He knows his audience so well. He can say anything and it's gold with him. I can see Zarina, given her lore, doing the exact same thing. The second thing is that we also know that WWE has been doing a push to popularize more Asian and Middle Eastern talent. For example, Veer or Jinder Mahal, for example, or even Mansoor or Mustafa Ali. So I can also see her being featured prominently on these Saudi shows. She could be like the female role model to all these little girls overseas, right? Here's my one worry that might keep her out of the main event, though. This is not me. This is WWE. They often botch Asian talent.
Oh, yes. It's a troubling trend.
So while I think... While Zarina in an ideal world would be a main event talent, given WWE's track record, I'm going to bring her from Tribal Chief to upper mid card.
You know what though? Like, I think it was so inspiring, everything you said about her, that it's just such a shame that Zarina Kassir is not a real person and not in wrestling, because like it was such a cool vision for her there, and it's such a shame to not see her in main eventer, because you're absolutely right. Again, it taps into that very important thing about how important markets are for WWE and how they've always been important for WWE. Except for Russia. Have you ever noticed, like, it's always like it has nothing to do with the current world situation. It's just like Russia, it's always like, oh, Russian character, evil. Always.
Exactly.
100% of the time. I guess they don't care about that market, but every other market matters.
Like Rusev. Yeah. I mean, he was Bulgarian, but
he was Bulgarian, but in Vince McMahon's mind, he's like, yeah, that sounds kind of Russian to me.
Well, let me put Vladimir Putin on screen for 6 months.
If you are Russian or German, you really need not apply for the face roles, because it's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
I guess Kozlov did get. He was a face towards him. But anyway, irrelevant. I get it. But that was a really cool thing with Zarina. And here I thought I was being bold saying upper mid card, but then you made that compelling case for main eventer. So that was cool. Yeah.
Right. I miss Kozlov, by the way. I enjoyed him.
He seems like one of the genuine, just most amazing people outside of the ring. Like, it's not because of what he did in the ring so much, but like if I could be any wrestler, he'd be on that list, because he just seems so fantastic.
He was super over with me when he was doing when he was in ECW, like before he actually was in the ring, he would just be in ECW crowd every single week saying, "I love double E," and it's
double E,
right? And I that got over with me big time, and I love Kozlov. He even got a clean win over the Undertaker once. Fun
somehow fact. Yeah.
Great. Next was this Cheryl?
Yeah, Cheryl.
What are your thoughts on her?
I mean, first off, she always looks so nervous and so like on edge. First things first, I just want to like give her a hug. Like, I just want to make sure it's like it's okay. No, there's no pyramid head here. But that doesn't exactly make a great superstar. That's right. I struggle to see her winning many matches. It's really, for me, the debate was lower mid-card versus jobber. Because Cheryl, from what I understand, by the way, I have not played the Silent Hill game. And every time I speak on them, I am always told in the comments that I don't know what I'm talking about. So this is me acknowledging that I don't. And also, I guess laughing, like, I guess it's humorous to me that people think I ever know what I'm talking about. Um, sometimes I just talk to hear my own voice. And in the case of Cheryl, that's all I really can do. I don't know a lot about her. But going off of DBD Cheryl, gosh, this feels like a lower mid-carder to me. I'm not seeing star power here, even though, again, if we're just going off of like how much I like them, I've noticed I've had a lot of wholesome Cheryl teammates. So, maybe you go back to the Molly Holly comparison from earlier. I think that kind of applies here too. Um, I don't see her as a main eventer.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I don't know much about Silent Hill either. I do know about the dog, the dog ending.
Yeah, I mean it's iconic, right?
Right, the dog ending. But like going on here, she looks traumatized. Do you think that's gonna interfere with her work in WWE?
Well, it's like, are you putting that on a souvenir cup?
Right. I mean, I can see her traumatized, and then maybe there's like a Vince McMahon version of Pyramid Head with like a giant Vince McMahon head that she's just like running away from. But yeah, I'm fine. Lower mid card jobber, fine with me.
Now I'm just thinking about a killer with their chase music is just the No Chance song.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, that'd be great.
Right. And then he would be like, "You're fired," as is Maury.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If all the current issues blow over in any way, make it happen.
Dude, you know what I can just imagine? What if you had like a Vince McMahon and he did the Vince McMahon walk while he was chasing
Oh
you?
my gosh, but he's moving at 115 movement speed.
115 movement
So he's just zooming after you doing the Vince walk.
Right.
That'd be fantastic. I'd pay extra for that DLC.
And then his M1 is him hitting you with the brass ring.
As his weapon is the brass ring.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, yeah. If you sneeze in his presence, you get some kind of major debuff.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that'd be fantastic.
Was it him or Undertaker who's afraid of pickles? I think it was Undertaker.
It's is it Undertaker?
No, cucumbers. Cucumbers. Yeah.
They are the least trustworthy vegetable.
Are
they fruit or veggies?
Are they grown from the ground or?
I don't know. Like I had the stupidity. I'm not putting on an act. Like I don't know what a cucumber is. Like I know what it is. I don't know if it's a fruit or a vegetable.
Right.
I think it's a veggie. Finally,
it tells you Christian stories with a tomato.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Veggie Tales.
Right.
Love it.
We have this next character. His name escapes me. Please forgive me.
James.
James. Okay.
James Sunderland.
It's because you see him. You barely see him in game.
So when it comes to James, I'm going off DBD James. This is already the stupidest. It's my dumbest reasoning yet. So bear with me here. It's a doozy, but he looks too much like Prince Charming from Shrek 2 to me.
He does.
So I think he'd be a fantastic heel. I think he would just be so hateable. And I am familiar enough with Silent Hill to know that he's looking for his wife, and he's like he's very determined, and he's dealing with all these past demons, and it's very serious. I don't care. I see Prince Charming and not the nice one. So I think he'd be a fantastic heel. I put him as an upper mid-carder. I can definitely hear him doing the Seth Rollins laugh, the yeah, I definitely think he'd be up there.
I'll take your word for it. We'll put him as upper mid-card. Next character.
Yeah, Cybil Bennett.
Cybil Bennett.
Yeah. Well, as a Silent Hill expert who knows everything about it, I see this is the progression. Each time I'm just going to keep staking more claim to knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, to me, she fits the I guess archetype of the evil authority figure to me. And again, this has nothing to do with the lore. This is all in her face. The faces she makes in the game. I can see her sneering. She's Stephanie McMahon to me. She's just like,
oh no.
Yeah, she's the authority figure who gets to slap all the talent and very rarely have to get her comeuppance. That's where I see her personally. What about are you feeling that vibe, or where'd you land with that?
She can. Stephanie McMahon again. She can't shake that stigma. I see her as, I made the women's revolution, right? Taking credit for that.
It was all me.
It was me all along. We listened to our fans in WWE. That's why we're so successful. So
boom.
Yeah, I'll give that. You said upper mid card, right? Or what?
I put her in other because I thought she was kind of like an authority figure. Yeah,
authority. Okay, fine with that. Felix. It's interesting that you mentioned Prince Charming for another character, and I was thinking about Felix because Felix is not too bad looking.
Yeah, Felix is sehr sure. Yeah, Felix. What a handsome guy. Felix looks like $1 million. There's no doubt about that. We know he has abs, which is not something we can say for most of the characters. So
confirmed.
Yeah, it's been confirmed because the DBD, this player base, the thirst cannot be quenched. When will they learn? So, yeah, I put him in upper mid card. I'm not gonna drag it out. I'm just gonna say I think he's got the look, but I will say I think we've seen plenty of like conventionally attractive people come and go. So I think first off, he's German. He would be a villain. It's not because Germans are villains. Every German I've ever met has been a really cool person, and I've met quite a few Germans because I was on that track in college. Right. So, Germans, in my experience, are goofy, cool people. But in WWE terms, they only can be Bond villains.
Exactly.
So I think he's an upper mid card heel to me.
Right. Looks are not the end all be all. Chris Masters would be an example, and
he had a perfect look. Yeah.
It sucks because like he was like slaving away on main event for the longest time, and he was over with me, but they didn't give him it.
I think the shame of like Chris Masters is like when I think back to him, I have a very different memory than I think a lot of people do because I was pretty young when I first remember seeing Chris Masters, and young me who didn't really fully know about kayfabe yet. I thought the Master Lock Challenge was the coolest thing ever. And I thought it was so just unbreakable. And when Bobby Lashley broke it, my mind was blown. I thought Bobby Lashley was like the strongest man to ever exist, not named Mark Henry. Yeah, it was cool. The Master Lock Challenge was cool.
I love Chris Masters, and yes, I remember that segment vividly. And ironic that now Bobby Lashley is using the Hurt Lock.
It's insane. It's like things going full circle. Yeah, it's so cool to see.
So we're putting Felix upper mid card. I see him getting like the Cesaro treatment.
Oh, poor guy. Yeah.
Élodie, I do have something significant to say about her. What do you think about her?
Yeah. Do you want to lead with it? If you got something significant, I feel like I'm getting to like bat lead off every time, and I want you to be able to lead off on this one. So tell me what Miss Rakoto is bringing to the table.
So one of Élodie's defining traits is that she's super cunning. She has those perks: deception. Her other perks escape me, but you get the gist. She's supposed to be someone who can outsmart the people she's in the ring. She's in a match with. In that respect, I can see her putting on these very entertaining Eddie Guerrero style matches.
There is no greater compliment a wrestling fan can give somebody than like, wow, I see shades of Eddie in you.
Plus, she's not like too bad looking. When I first saw her in the game,
she's a 10. She's beautiful.
I was thinking like she looks like that girl in every single commercial. I don't know her name, but you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
She has the afro. She's in the Ross catalog. If you've ever seen a Ross catalog, like you've seen this woman every commercial. I don't know how else to better describe it, but this is the woman that's like.
I'm sure there's a core memory that I'm missing here.
Yeah. She has such an iconic look. I'm putting her upper mid card.
Yeah, for me, she was one I didn't spend nearly as much time thinking on just because I thought about it for a minute and I was like straight to Tribal Chief with her. I do see Élodie as the type who would be the head of some kind of stable. She'd be a heel because she's French and It's
Oh,
ironic. French people are heels for different reasons. Like Russians and Germans in WWE are like monsters. French people are like aristocrats, you know? Uh, and I think that she'd be some kind of head of a faction. She's got an incredible look. And we know from a lot of the lore that we've gathered from some of her outfits, like the spelunking one and all that, that she's clearly kind of rough and tumble. She's not afraid to actually get her hands dirty. And yeah, I think that Élodie is a runaway main eventer. One of the strongest cases for a main eventer to me.
I'll take your word. I'll agree. I'll give her a main eventer. I like Élodie.
Nice.
Um, Yun-Jin Lee. Um,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, there's strong opinions here for sure.
I'll lead this one. So one of the tools in WWE that makes you successful is that you need to stand out in some way visually from the rest of the crowd. I
Hmm.
think Vince Russo has described it this way. Don't hate me for mentioning Vince Russo. Um, so he says that you need to have that it factor such that if you were in an airport, you could be singled out in virtue of your appearance alone as someone who is important. The person singling you out might not know exactly what you do for a living, but based on how you present yourself, they can tell that you're a star. Um,
Mm.
and that is exactly what Yun-Jin Lee has. She has that bright banana colored outfit. She's got that white furry shirt. She's got all of these different types of clothes. And it's honestly giving me Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch vibes. I can see her like, yeah, just coming down with these ridiculous Cookie Monster Elmo looking suits. Like, I could see her as being super marketable. I also know that Yoon-Jin Lee is also quite ruthless.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I can see her politicking her way up to the top in WWE. I can see her having a Mean Girls type gimmick in WWE, and I think her politicking is sufficient to get her to tribal chief status. Let me also tell you one more thing about Yoon-Jin Lee. So I was talking about like the way she dresses. Um, you remember Cody Rhodes when he first debuted, right?
Oh yeah.
So when Cody Rhodes first debuted, I'm not talking about like his return to WWE, but like when he first
No,
came
yeah,
to
like
WWE,
early Cody.
I
Yeah.
I couldn't stand him. He was skinny. He looked like the generic, like unaltered create a
He
wrestler.
just had like the black trunks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have like the little R in the corner. It looks like the generic wrestler you see in the SmackDown versus Raw games. He didn't stand out in any sort of way out of a crowd. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make about Yoon-Jin Lee. She's someone who stands out from the crowd, and she's someone who can politic her way enough to the top. So I would put her as, for conniving reasons, as a tribal chief.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's the only survivor in the entire game whose morality has her listed as just basically being outright vile. Uh, and I think that's cool. I like that about her. I think it makes her one of the more interesting survivors. I was torn because I completely agree with everything you said. And I think that if we look at it as Yun-Jin, the in-ring wrestler, 1000% a main eventer. I also see it as obviously low hanging fruit. Her lore was that she managed Trickster, and I could absolutely see them being a pair in a wrestling scenario. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of debate that Trickster would be somebody that you talk about star power. He's clearly got star power, and I could see her in a. I think whatever she did, she would do really well. Whether that is a backstage role, whether that's a wrestling role, whether it's an authority figure, a manager, whatever it is, I think she is uniquely suited for this business. So I'm perfectly fine with main eventer for her.
Right. She kind of reminds me actually of Maurice. Like she'd be
I
like
could see that, yeah.
she'd be like the Maurice to Trickster's Miz, except for Trickster's a lot more flamboyant.
Sometimes. So I don't know, Miz likes him. He likes him some sparkles. Yeah.
Yeah, he likes him that Naruto headband, right?
It's the weirdest accessory choice for him.
I like it. Normalize it. Normalize wearing normalize wearing headbands. We have Jill.
Jill.
Did we just want to put all of the Resident Evil people up here? I have similar thoughts about all of them.
I'll just call her Jill Cena and move on.
Jill Cena, Claire Cena.
I said, Claire was the hardest one for me to place.
Okay.
I could not decide where to put Claire because I love Claire as a character, and there's no doubt that she's tough as nails. I don't know. Struggled with her. So if we want to put her main eventer, I'm cool with that. One of my longest time, most loyal, and just outright most positive viewers, Mandy, who has watched way too much Dust Food content, is a huge Claire fan. So I think I'd probably get I would have to constantly be checking my my inbox for hate mail if I didn't put Claire in main event. So I think for my own safety, I'm going to ask that we do that.
Right.
The only one I have an issue with, because obviously, look, Leon, $1 million. Leon's great, right? The only one I have a problem with is Chris Redfield, who I'm going to say a name and I'm going to walk away. I'm going to say a name.
Right.
If it resonates, it resonates. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Alex Riley. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. I'll leave it there. I remember not feeling him.
And Alex Riley, I remember when he tried to remake himself in NXT and he grew out his hair, and then he was getting the Triple H comparisons and stuff.
A guy with all the looks and none of the it.
Jobber.
Gosh, poor Chris.
and Leon, we got Leon Reigns.
Yeah, Leon Reigns, let's go. That's our tribal chief.
Leon Reigns.
Oh.
Ooh ah.
Ooh ah.
We have Mikaela.
All right. Now, I am so sad that I'm going to have to die on this hill. Because I didn't want to die on this hill. Gosh, too gimmicky. Too gimmicky. The witch stuff would be abused within a month. And I know where everybody's going to go. I know everybody who disagrees with me. I know what they're going to say, right? It's always going to be, what about Undertaker? Do you know how many Yetis we got after and before Undertaker? Do you know how many Christmas creatures exist to make up for the one Undertaker?
The Sub-Zero dude from WCW?
Exactly! Yes! No, okay? Gimmicks that are that extreme. What was his name? Fantasio or whatever, the magician character. You may be a super big Mikaela fan, but all I see is Repo Man. And I'm sorry, no. I don't think she's a main eventer. I think that she is lower mid-card at best, jobber at worst.
I think Mikaela has some redeeming qualities. So
okay.
She specializes in storytelling. That tells me she at least would be an excellent promo. Now, I can't say she'd be too successful beyond that for the reasons that you gave. Mm-hmm. She strikes me as more of an arts and crafts types of person more than a physical specimen. But I don't think WWE wants to lose out on the fact that they have someone who is an excellent storyteller. It's kind of like Jake the Snake Roberts. He's a person who can kind of lower his voice and kind of bring you into the promo without getting what chance, right?
Yeah, so could Bray.
Right, so could Bray, right? So, I think I remember hearing that Bray got inspiration from Jake the Snake. So,
that would not surprise me. Yeah, there's some similarities there.
So yeah, I think her talking skills is what keeps her out of jobber, but I would either put her as lower mid card or even other. What do you think is more suitable, lower or jobber or other? I'm open to any.
Put her in lower. You know what? You're right that there's potential there, and if you can tell a good story, there's hope for you. It doesn't mean it'll come true. It doesn't mean you'll meet that potential, but there's hope.
And she'll you're talking. I'm thinking about segment she would be in. So several years ago, they had this stupid, insufferable segment from Adam Rose, the the Rosebud segment. Do you remember that?
You're sounding like a real lemon right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could on the very worst end of the spectrum, I can see her doing like these anime Halloween, like really cringy promos. Nothing
Don't
against
be a
anime.
lemon, be a rose.
Right.
Yeah.
We have Jonah. I got to say
Jonah.
something about Jonah.
Say it.
So, when I was in the 5th grade, I had a teacher that looked exactly like Jonah, except my teacher had a shaved like buzz cut. He looks exactly like him, Mr. Estrada. And that's what I have to say about Jonah. He just looks exactly like my teacher. They just took his face and transposed him into the game.
I just get such strong Bobby Flay vibes from Jonah. You wanna talk about guys who would get in trouble? Jonah has literally firebombed children. Like, this is a guy who gets jobbed out and fired. This is not a guy with a future in the company.
This is a guy who I could see like in a John Laurinaitis type role. Hey, you're fired.
Oh, that's true. Well, he might want to be careful with that word, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you're right. You know what? I think that's great. Yeah, put him in other because he's clearly ruthless enough to be like a backstage guy. But just like Johnny Ace, I think he would want to imagine that he's like everybody's friend,
Right.
whether or not he is. It's I don't know. I mean, you get mixed stories about Johnny
Right. I could even see him.
Ace. Some of them are not, and I think Jonah would be the same way.
Right. I can see him as like a heel, like general manager.
Yeah, I could see that. Again, I think the issue for him, I guess it's a more fun exercise if we ignore the war crimes because the war crimes just strictly relegate him to like a jail cell.
Exactly.
So if we ignore those, yeah, I like the thought of him as like a non-wrestler. Even though one thing that works in his favor, he's actually, you look at him, he's got some broad shoulders. He's got a solid build. If he were to like actually bulk up a little bit, he would have a great look. But yeah, I definitely like him more in a backstage role. Especially, he's always got his tablet on him, even in the fog, where you know that thing doesn't work. So that just screams suit to me.
Now that you mention his size, you know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Armando Alejandro Estrada. Haha.
I remember being a kid and wanting to fight that full-grown man so badly because he was a cheater. And even though in hindsight, dude, I miss Umaga. Umaga was great.
It was like when Armando, when like he got out of the manager role and he started like wrestling like in ECW, it's like this dude has muscles?
Yeah, I know. Like, wait a minute. Wait.
The same thing with like Davari, and it's like, why does this guy have muscles?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just goes to show you have so many wrestlers who they're like, well, we don't want you as a wrestler, but do you want to be a manager? And you just take what you can get.
Great. Senor, well, not really. Yoichi.
Yeah. He's hard to place, isn't he? Because the elephant in the room, which you've already alluded to, is especially Eastern Asian characters in WWE. We'll never get another high and tie. I'm very proud to say I think we're well past that.
Indeed.
Which was a low point amongst low points. However, can we really say if somebody as talented as Shinsuke Nakamura can be not wasted, but definitely not used properly? I mean, I don't know, because at the same time, it's a pretty well-known thing that Shinsuke's kind of cruising right now, and he's trying to live a more comfortable lifestyle and just like surf, basically. So,
right.
I don't know. Maybe part of that's more Shinsuke than WWE, but I don't know. When it comes to my point being that they've got him better, but still not great. So I don't know that I could see main eventer, but there are things working in Yoichi's favor. He's handsome, he's tall, and if his choice of an attire in DBD says anything, he would choose some pretty noticeable gear. So I give him upper mid card. Why not? Let's see what he can do.
So when I first saw Yoichi debut in Dead by Daylight, the first thing that I was thinking is that this is the manga adaptation of the man with the yellow hat from Curious George with his bright yellow jacket. Um, my understanding, my understanding of Yoichi is that he's supposed to be like, was he like a biologist, right? Like a marine biologist or something?
Yeah, he worked at. I've read his lore. It's been a minute. He worked at a university of some kind, but he became like disgraced because of like basically chasing conspiracy. Which means we'll get like a WrestleMania match with him and Alex Jones, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll put him lower mid card or jobber even.
Yeah, put him lower mid card because I think he has potential. I think he definitely has potential.
He could do like different jackets. Like there's jacket time in NXT.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's his gimmick.
Right. Let's do. I forget her name.
uh, is it Lisa or Haddie?
Uh, Lisa. Yeah.
Like, yeah, the nurse.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. This one's easy. Look at that evil grin and tell me she's not a main event heel.
She's cold and calculated.
Yeah, that is a look of evil. That's the heel that you just can't wait to see get beaten. And you can't believe that she keeps avoiding the conflict. And yeah, to me, she's a main eventer. She's got that look about her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she strikes me as the type that she would get the heat where people insist that it's X-Pac heat, but it's actually just genuine heat. Uh, like you've heard it before where somebody's like, oh, I just, it's not even for the reasons they want me to dislike them. It's just, they're just so annoying. But in reality, the heel's just doing an excellent job. Because it's kind of unpopular to be like a true heel these days. And I think Lisa would be a true heel.
I wanted to make a comparison to like Baron Corbin, but
Yeah, that's exactly who I was thinking about when I was talking about the whole like. I've heard people talk about Corbin, and it's like, oh, I dislike Corbin, but not even why they want me to dislike him. It's like, no, that he's just doing a great job. He's just a great heel.
Right.
He's just not fun to cheer for, therefore making him a pretty good heel.
He's someone who transcends, like the audience, cheering the heel, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Next we have Jonathan.
Little rat boy. He's a jobber. He's okay. So here's the deal, right? you said you couldn't get like super into Stranger Things, right?
Right. So for our audience who hasn't heard our previous conversations, so I tried 4 different times to get into Stranger Things, and I'm not saying it's a bad show or anything like that. I'm just saying it's not my cup of tea. So I've tried it 4 times.
I can't believe you would say it's a terrible show like that. That is so offensive.
Oh man, thumbs down, right?
Okay, so the point I was going to make is you can't get into it from season 1. And season 1 is easily Jonathan's most interesting season. He just gets boring from there. Yeah, this dude gets put in the ring to get Ellsworth. Like he's not a guy. He's not a guy for this company. He's not even funny like Ellsworth.
Right. I can see Vince McMahon wanting to make fun of him, calling him Rat Boy.
Okay, Rat Boy may have been harsh, but maybe I was mean to Jonathan.
No, I mean when James Ellsworth was around, they were like roasting the fact that like there's just like he has a black hole for a chin.
Yeah, you're gonna look like Ellsworth.
Right. I remember that promo.
The greatest promo ever. And you just use the same insult your opponent used verbatim.
Right. And alas, we reach our journey's end with Haddie.
Haddie the baddie. That sells itself, doesn't it? That's a merch line. That's Hot Rod Haddie. That's we can keep going with these. Baby, you can drive my cower. This is I'll stop though. But Haddie, there's no denying Haddie looks like a badass. I mean, Haddie to me looks like the type who, whether it's true or not, you could hype up as like, oh yeah, she's got like Brazilian jiu-jitsu experience or whatever. Haddie feels very genuinely tough, and I think that translates very well. I put her in upper mid card. I think she would have a successful career.
I'm not exactly sure about where to put her. So one of the most prominent features Haddie bears is the physical scars with these sort of ultra mundane entities she's been battling with. So in that respect, I want to agree that she's just too tough. She's like a Ronda Rousey or like a Brock Lesnar, where they rock that cauliflower ear, where the cauliflower ear is it's a badge of honor almost, right? And these scars that she has is sort of like a badge of honor. So in that respect, I can almost see her as a tribal chief. I will say, maybe this is not against Haddie herself, but maybe her game model. Like, I don't like her jaw. She has like this jaw that looks like she has no like she has no teeth. She reminds me of what's his name? Eustace from Courage, from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
No, that's dirty. Doing her dirty.
Oh my, like and like jokes aside, she reminds me of ODB.
Hey, ODB was cool though. ODB.
Yeah, so
I like ODB.
I put Haddie either as upper mid-card tribal chief. I'm fine with either one.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think upper mid card's good for her. I think that's a solid place to end up. And I also think it's cool that we end on a bit of a high note there. Like we're not trashing somebody. We're giving props. That feels good to end on a high note.
And look at all of the main eventers we have. Like, I expected up there to be a bunch of jobbers here. But man, and look at all the women. The women are coming out good. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 women and 3 guys. Wow.
This is it's a little lopsided. It's definitely a little lopsided. It's the women they may have to do the women's tag division because I don't know what else we're going to do there.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm very happy with how this turned out. I feel like it was cool that for the most part, we kind of saw eye to eye on nearly everybody. And when we didn't, there were compelling cases made. And I think we ended up in roughly the same place. So that was cool.
Exactly. And with that being said, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. I wanted to thank Thos Food. Be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel. He posts super hilarious videos. Follow him on Twitch. Join his Discord as well. And I will put put all of his stuff in the description of his videos so you can have easy access to it. With that being said,
if you dare, yeah.
Right, if you dare. Right. With that being said, by the way, shout out to Mandy. I was in your stream yesterday, and she gifted me a sub, so that was cool.
Oh, Mandy's great. Yeah, shout out to Mandy for getting Claire main event status.
Right. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.